we can. Okay, we are currently live. Thank you everybody for joining us. This is EdenWorld Initiative. Thank you, and we want to sincerely appreciate everybody for always responding to our call, and to everybody watching around the globe. We sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Right now we have our guest, Dr. Yaping. Is currently joining from China. Yaping, can we have some words from you before we get started fully?
Yeah, sure. So hello everyone, and it's such a pleasure to be invited by EdenWorld Initiative, and especially I'm so pleased to talk with my old friend Adetula, whom I met 2 years ago, I guess, in 2019 in Ghana. And it's also my first time to have a talk with Nigeria. So I'm really so excited, yeah, and I'm open to all questions, and I'm also ready to gain some insights from you, and looking forward to this event. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yaping. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit of your background and some of
Yeah.
those you do?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So actually, you asked a very very challenging question to me, because it's so hard to describe what I am. Yeah. So not like others, they say I'm an architect, I'm a doctor, but I have a very very, how to say, complicated background. I studied business English for my bachelor's degree in China, and then I did a master in intercultural communication studies, also in China. And then I did an Erasmus Mundus master's program in cultural landscapes management in France, Italy, and Germany. And then I worked within the World Heritage Management field for more or less 2 years. First at ICOMOS, Italy, and then at the World Heritage Center in Paris. And then since I got the feeling that within the cultural heritage management field, sometimes the approach can be very static. So they only care about the preservation or conservation of the values, or the material aspect, or the physical integrity. But in terms of the values, but I think we should have a dynamic and social perspective. No, so it's really a continuous and living state of creating values, actually. So I think I have to learn something more about development. So I just decided to leave my work, and I did a PhD in urban regeneration and academic development. So from after that, I worked as postdoc researcher in Italy, and now I'm back in China after a very complicated trip back. So now I'm also I'm doing research within the landscape, rural development, especially innovation. Yeah. So this is more or less my background.
Can you make one of your devices, please?
Yeah. You want me to?
No, you, Yaping. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So by the way, I also I'm also the co-founder of the UNESCO Global Youth Community, and so we are gonna launch officially this initiative in about I think more or less 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and so stay tuned. And I think it's also a very good opportunity to join the global youth action. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Yaping, and
Thank
to everybody connecting. We would love to tell you that today we'll be discussing landscape regeneration and sustainable development. And very briefly, Yaping, can you give us a background of what we'll be discussing this afternoon?
Okay, so the background actually it's part of my PhD dissertation. my original title is about a landscape approach to rural development. So combining landscape regeneration and innovation economies. The rationale for such a new approach is that, according to literature, I think most of the studies or practices are based on a very siloed approach, very very not that multidisciplinary, not that holistic. But I think if we want to really solve the landscape issues, we have to address simultaneously the not only the environmental fabric, the environmental aspect, but also the social, cultural, and economic aspect. So I just carried out a comparative study between a rural area in Italy and a rural area in my hometown city in China. And also, after the workshop in Ghana with you, I also think this approach can be very, very relevant in our time. So this is also our discussing points of tonight, of this afternoon, I guess, in Nigeria.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Yaping. Going to the questions. In your own terms, or in your own language, or what you understand, what is landscape regeneration, and how can you relate it with sustainable development? How can you balance the two together? Yaping,
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Very, very interesting question. And but before I explain what do I mean by landscape regeneration, I would like to share some images with you.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, you can share your screen.
Okay. Can you see it? Can you all see it?
Not yet.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, you can see it. So
Yes.
some images. If you look at this village in Italy, I mean, just a frame.
Can you put it in a slide mode so that we can have a better view of the image, please? Okay. All right. Looks
Okay.
great.
So if you look from outside, it's just very well preserved. But if you went inside, you see a lot of changes, like they installed solar panels on the rooftop. And what is key, of course, people to this landscape. But inside, actually, it's very, very decayed and a lot of degradation. And a lot of houses were abandoned. So I think what is key message from these images is actually change. So in Chinese character, this is change. And why change? Why landscape change? Why does landscape change? So some observations from Italy. This is a typical olive grove landscape in southern Italy, and there are a lot of problems. Like they have this kind of crop conversion. Those olive trees, they are century old, so like natural monuments. But since now they are not productive and the market is ever changing, local farmers, they started cutting down the olive trees, and they convert the olive groves into kiwi plantations, or they have this kind of mixture plantation. And also some landscapes became abandoned, and these stone terraces, they were completely abandoned. And or in terms of the production and consumption pattern, you can tell the radical change from this picture. Like before, this village was self-sufficient because the slopes were cultivated. They were terraces, and they grow vegetables and fruits, but now it's also not used anymore. And this is a beautiful town, but totally abandoned in southern Italy. And also this one. And this is in Ghana. And why I want to mention about this, because here you can also see that, I mean, the landscapes is not only about a static state. No, it's dynamic because people, they are living there. They have cultural practices. They have their own economies, and some things are changing very, very fast. And also landscapes, you see, really, it's a place where natural elements and human elements continuously interact. And so it's also about memory, and it's about the place, the spirit of the place, no? And so if you ask me to give a definition of landscape regeneration, I would say, first, we need a broadened concept of landscape. It's not only about nature or like a forests, but it's really a more holistic, holistic view of all the environment. So it's not only natural or ecological environment, but also social, cultural, and economic fabrics of a landscape. And over time, this system tends to degrade and tends to lose its functions. And meanwhile, the people living there, they tend to have new demands. So there's this mismatch between the landscape structure and the social economic functions. That's why we need to regenerate the social economic and environmental fabrics of landscapes, so as to have this adaptive adjustment of the landscape structure to meet the social economic needs. This is how I define landscape regeneration. And why it is related to sustainable development. It's also because sustainable development is always about a trade-off between all the three spheres, three dimensions, no? And if you want to be sustainable, you have to make sure that you can achieve sustainability at social, cultural, economic, and environmental dimensions. And when you regenerate the three dimensions simultaneously, you can make sure that your landscape can continuously function to generate benefits that are inclusive to all the community members, so that people could have not only a safe and livable environment to live, but also lively social, cultural experiences. They can have a sense of belonging and a sense of continuity. But more importantly, they can also have a livelihood, so as to prevent people from migrating to big cities while making those small settlements degraded. That's my answer. I hope I answer your question. Yeah.
You gave a very great response, Yaping. Can I have your camera back? I am unable to see you on my screen.
So I need to stop sharing. Okay, great.
Okay, please do. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Moving forward, Yaping. You've told us the three things involved in sustainable development. You talked about the environment, the economy, and then one more thing. But then looking at this connectedness, how can we ensure sustainable landscape regeneration? How can we make sure that we ensure sustainable landscape regeneration?
Yeah. Well, you just asked a very relevant but also very complex question. I don't think we can really give a full answer within a few minutes. So I will try to be as synthetic as possible. But also I would like to give you some examples to illustrate what I mean. So you remember when we were visiting Varabeba village, the fishing village in Ghana. I don't know if you still remember. So what impressed me the most was not the co-living space of human beings and animals within the same space, but it's more about I think it's a World Bank funded project. Basically, that project is aiming to improve the sanitation of local people. So they had they had built a very very high tech and very ecological public toilet. But it's people told me that it never worked. So this tells us sometimes even if we have a very well designed project, but if we do not consider its relevance to local communities' needs, perceptions, values, it will seldom be sustainable. And likewise, for to make sure that landscape regeneration could be sustainable, I think we should consider the following factors. First, we need to adopt a very holistic and incremental approach. Holistic means that we have to jump out of the box, and like you are ecologists and environmentalists, but when you regenerate the landscape, you cannot only have a knowledge background on ecology or environmental science, but you have to relate your background with other disciplines related to landscape regeneration, like social science, anthropology, economics, policy, communication, and all these will matter. Incremental means that you cannot just pursue very immediate transformations, but sometimes there is this this gap between impacts. Social, economic, environmental, and cultural impact in terms of which will happen first. Like let's say social cultural impacts will always happen much later. After will come after environmental impact. So you have to also make sure that you adopt a little by little, learning by doing attitude, and it's not that rigid. So be flexible throughout the process and make necessary adjustment. Second, regarding the connectivity you mentioned, I think, of course, you have to address the trade-off between environmental protection, biodiversity preservation, and socio-economic development, because we can never deprive the rights to development from local people, local community. I think development to have a better livelihood, a more living conditions for local people, I think it's their priority. So you must integrate your ecological regeneration initiatives into the broader community development framework, so that at the same time, while you regenerate and protect a natural landscape, you can also create a sustainable livelihood and economies for local people, so that they could not only improve their living conditions, but meanwhile they will also have a sense of ownership. So it's like it's also part of me, and it's not only those technocrats. They come, they invest money, and they go, and I won't get I won't get anything from this landscape regeneration initiative. So ownership is very, very important. And lastly, I think you need a very, very inclusive, responsible, and open-minded social media and mass media, because I think global-wise, I really think that humanity is in crisis, because we have more and more social conflicts, and social segregation, and people. I mean, they have more and more information, and anyway, but all these boom of information makes people more and more distant from each other, and they form a lot of groups, and those groups are all closed. They are all gated. Like it's like as if they are gated. So I think media should create a dialogue space so that people won't be kind of like brainwashed, or I don't know. So they could be more open to new ideas. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Dr. Yaping. I'm
Thank
learning
you.
so much, and I'm very sure our audience are learning well too. Moving forward, Dr. Yaping, I want us to do something right now. Moving to the next question, you know,
Yeah.
uh, okay, let me just put it this way: how can landscape regeneration be done to improve habitat connectivity, in a way to ensure species functions, and to ensure that food production is achieved in such a sustainable manner, with increasing human population and urbanization? I think you understand, because looking
Yeah.
at it now, we
Yeah.
have urbanization, we have increased population all over the place, all over the continent. I think you understand. So how can we make sure that landscape regeneration can ensure species functions and also ensure food production?
Yeah. Yeah. You really ask very, very good questions. I love them. But to be honest, this is kind of beyond my expertise, because I'm not ecologist, But so I will venture a personal answer, and if I made some mistakes or I got something stupid, please
The
do
thing is,
correct
Yapi,
me.
let's have your perspective. Let's know
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
think, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I was very impressed by the biodiversity when I was in Ghana, and it was the very first African country that I visited, and I really love it. That experience was amazing. I mean, it's like everything I see is different. So I really hope that
Don't
first
worry, don't worry. I'm going to invite you to Nigeria very
uh,
soon.
I will be so honored to go and visit you in Nigeria for sure. And I think, of course, we should try our best to preserve, to manage biodiversity. And I think it will be the most important treasure that we can leave for our younger generations. And but to do this, I think, of course, connectivity is very, very important. As you said, some species, if they lose this connectivity, they will lose the reproduction ability. So they will maybe verge on extinction. I mean, of course, you should differentiate between species and zones, and there should be a very first of all, there should be a government-led action which will set up legislation, framework, regulation. Like you have to have a zoning, no? So in these zones, like the most important ecological zones, you should not have any human activities, especially productive activities, and there should also be a strict enforcement of these regulation and legislation. But meanwhile, this doesn't mean that you should 100% prohibit human activities, because natural ecosystems, they also need, some of them, they also need human intervention, especially forests. So the widespread fires across the states, United States, Australia, and even Africa. I think they demonstrate also that if those forests, they have no they have no maintenance from human beings, there will be also more risk of fire. So sustainable use or extraction of natural resources from the ecosystem is also very, very important, and this should not be prohibited. But there should be a plan to, and well monitored and managed plan. And second, I think like what we said just now, you should not just compromise one dimension for another dimension, and you should not prioritize ecological preservation while sacrificing the need for better life of local people. So that, I mean, the what is important is you should also allow local people to gain benefits from the ecosystem. But you cannot just let them do whatever they want, and there should be a very well thought and guided intervention from the local authorities. Like they should not just do commercial agriculture or very intensified agriculture, or like burning the forests, and to just do this kind of nomadic agriculture. No more. But what you should do is to introduce very indigenous varieties of crops, or very climate resilient crops. And only agriculture is not enough. You should also empower local farmers. Like you should help them to organize themselves into cooperatives, to do crowdfunding, so that they can do this kind of economy of scale. And there should also be very well functioning agricultural extension and advisory services in place, so that farmers can also resort to those experts for help. The ultimate objective is to improve the productivity, but meanwhile, you also help the regeneration of the ecological system. Thirdly, I think what we need is collaboration. You need a collaboration. I know I don't know very well African countries, but I think you have a lot of experiences as well. So what we can learn from you, we will also learn from you. But when we learn from each other, we should always kind of tailor the experiences when we do international cooperation. You cannot just copy and paste, and all the good practices should be always tailored and contextualized. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you so much, Yaping. Moving forward, and we are gradually coming to the end of this event. Moving forward, can you tell us? Okay, let me just put it this way: looking into the social angle of landscape regeneration for sustainable development, how can landscape regeneration projects be done in a way that it will reflect people's interest to willingly participate in landscape regeneration projects for effective management and sustainability in terms of development? Whatever we are doing, we need to put in people's interests. We need to reflect what they are thinking, or their background, or whatever they have in mind when carrying out some of these projects that would help the environment. So how do you think we can put together and key into the interest of the people to ensure the theme we are talking about this afternoon?
Yeah. Okay. So my understanding is, first of all, you should have a very good understanding of who you are working with, or you are collaborating with. If you are working with local populations, I think normally those people, they are located in very fragile or marginal or very lagging areas. So you should take into consideration their education background, their absorptive capacity, whether they could understand or identify themselves with these kind of values, concepts, and what are their priorities in their life. And secondly, I think what is so important is you should have sincerity and compassion when you work with local people. You are there not only, you are not really a technocrat, but you are just a friend or a co-worker with them. And so this participatory approach mechanism is very, very critical to create a sense of ownership, to create trust, and to create motivation among local people. And thirdly, I think it's also very important to identify who will be the lead, the community leader, and you always need a leader, local leader, who will kind of pass on the word or convey the ideas to their peers. No, so let's say if you wanna introduce a new regenerative, how to say it? It's so hard to pronounce. Regenerative agriculture project, and if people, for them, they cannot understand what do you mean by this new activity, and you should make sure that they could see the change first. So maybe you can first start with a plot of a demonstration plot, so that people can come and observe. They can see what do you mean by biochemicals? What do you mean by climate resilient crops, so that they can really see that it's really generating benefits to them, and it's not something in the air. So they will be interested. I think what is so important is, after all in all, what is very, very important is that local people, they can gain a sense of ownership, and they can see really change, positive change, and this is how to make them interested, I think.
From you, Yaping. Great one from you. Thank you for sharing your
Thank you.
perspective
Thank you. Yeah.
on what we are looking at this afternoon. Thank you so much. Yaping, before
Yeah.
I let you go, can we have your final words? Maybe a sort of advice for people, maybe a call to action or something. Can we have a kind of closing remarks from you, please?
Okay. I want to say, let's say, to decision makers, only one thing: we should definitely stop politicizing mega changes in the world. Like they are politicizing COVID-19, they are politicizing climate change, they are politicizing many things to create conflicts and tensions among local societies and also among countries. I think this is really detrimental to humanity and to global development. And we are really living in a global village, and no one can just prosper by itself. We have to prosper, all of us, all together. So we cannot live in a split up world. But unfortunately, the global trend is we are going in that direction. And then I think this is so dangerous. And secondly, what is so sad is uh, there's really this complice between politicians and those bad social media and mass media. They really add salt to the wound and make really more tensions in the society and among people, among countries. But this is not true. I mean, we have to really go there and really experience with our with local people. I mean, like I would never understand Africa in that way without that trip to Ghana. But anyway, it's only a week experience, but it's a full immersion. So I'm really grateful, and I'm really convinced that we should never only just listen to what politicians say or those social influencers they say on social media. We should always go there and interact and exchange with local people without any prejudice or any stereotypes, because we are all humans. And to the people, I want to say, we should always remember that in terms of our humanity, we're the same. And now you have rich countries, poor countries. But if we go back to, I mean, if we go back to the 1950s, 1930s, maybe we are all the same. There's no such a big difference. But people just they seldom think in a diachronic way. They only think in very synchronic way. So like China now, why you are polluting, why you are doing what? But look, I want to say, look at you back in the 1950s, and all your forests were destroyed by the acid rain. So it's a human story anyway. So you should never deprive the rights to development from developing countries. And but what developing countries should avoid is we should learn from the lessons of those developed countries, and we have to address the trade-off between environmental protection and economic development. This is very, very challenging, but according to Chinese experience, I think you have to make sure that your economy reaches first a higher enough level, and then you will have more policy space and more financial resources to protect your environment, to conserve your culture. But it will never be too late. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I must say I enjoyed this session, and I enjoyed you too. Thank you so much. Yeah. Uh, can I ask you to very quickly tell us a bit of the landscape there in China? Very quickly, in 1 minute, can you share with us an idea of what the landscape looks like in China? Because most of us are here in this part of the world. We are kind of familiar with Africa, Europe, and let's say America, Northern and Southern America. Can you tell us very quickly, let's say in 1 or 2 minutes, what the landscape looks like in China?
Okay. First of all, thank you for your interest in China. And actually, since I lived for more than 8 years in Europe, and I'm also kind of detached from the Chinese landscape. But since now I'm in China, so I got a chance to travel a little bit. I think we also boast really an amazing diversity of ecological systems, landscapes, and cultural diversity. And over the last decade, Chinese government also has spent a lot of money in landscape regeneration, ecological restoration. So now I can really tell there's a huge change. I mean, all the roads are green, and yours have those green belts surrounding the cities. Our cities are also very, very green, and all the streets are covered by trees. like in Ghana, and I'm really surprised that when I was there, I was surprised that they have so many beautiful trees on the streets, and beautiful. I love it, and I think
Yeah.
also now Chinese landscapes are also changing. Especially, I think there will be more changes in the next few decades because of the climate change. So let's say we have the rain. How to say? I don't know how to call it in English. Let's say my city is in the northwestern part of China. Normally, we won't have that much rain. But now, guess what? And our climate is becoming more and more similar to the climate in the south, where they have more rain in summer. So that means we will also have more and more forests. So meanwhile, there will be more and more risks, and we need to get ready, yeah, for this kind of changes. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Yaping. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
this wonderful session. I most sincerely appreciate you.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. And I think China is really open. So you guys are all welcome to visit China or or study in China. And I think you have a lot of opportunities here. And we have I always see African people on the street in my city. So I think you can, if they can come, you can also come, as much
Yeah,
as long as you want.
yeah. Thank you. I look forward to visiting very soon. Thank you so much on behalf of our organization. We want to sincerely appreciate you, Dr. Yaping. Thank you for responding to our call. And I know very soon, I can remember
Thank
the
you.
beautiful memories at the Youth in Landscape Camp in Accra. Yeah, and the beautiful moments we had together the next time, the tours
Indeed.
and everything. So thank you so much, Dr. Yaping, for joining us from China. And very soon, I look forward to hosting you on another edition of our event. So we sincerely appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dr. Yaping.
Thank you, and take